video, we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting whole numbers, especially when we've got more than just single digits adding together. Hopefully this is mostly review, so I'm not going to break it down too much. So if I'm looking to add numbers together, as a reminder, we're always going to start on the right-hand side and move across to the left. And we're going to do that because we're going to start adding our ones together first, and then we're going to look at our tens and then hundreds, and if the number is bigger, thousands, 10,000, so on. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers in the ones column. So I've got 235 as well as 84. And in the ones column, I have 5 from the 235 and I have 4 from the 84. When I add those two things together in my ones column, the 5 plus the 4 combines to give me 9. So now I have 9 ones. Moving over, because as I said, we go from the right to the left, I'm now going to work in my tens column. And when I look at the tens column, I have 3 and 8. And remember, that does represent 30 and 80. 3 plus 8 would give me 11. Now, the problem with writing 11 like this is I still have numbers in my hundreds column that also need to be added together. So I can't write down 2 digits. I can't write down 11. So you might recall when we were younger, we talked about if we had 10 of something. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'll draw my 11th one. What we did was we combined those 10 into a single piece like this, and we created a tens brick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there are 10 pieces in there. So instead of thinking of it as 11 single ones, we do it as a 10 plus 1 extra. Okay, so my 11, instead of writing it down as 11 there, I'm going to write down the 1 up top here and carry it over. We call that carrying over. And so now when I look in my hundreds column for adding, I have this 1 that I've carried over from before plus an additional 2. And because I'm working in the hundreds column, this does represent a 100 and a 200. Okay, so 1 plus 2 gives me 3. So really I'm just adding column by column, and if I have anything extra in my addition, I carry over or bring it over to the next column if I had a 2-digit number to write. Let's do another one really fast. This one here, I'm going to start again. We start on our ones side and move from right to left. So I'm going to start with the ones here. Adding the ones, I've got 6 plus 6, which would give me 12. So I'm going to write down the 2 in the ones position, but I'm going to carry the 1 in the 12, which that 1 is in my tens position. I'm going to carry it up into the next column. Then I'm going to look at my tens column, and I've got a 1 plus 9 gives me 10, and then that 10 plus 3 more is 13. So I'm going to have a 3, and I'm going to carry the 1 over to the next column. Working on my hundreds column now, I've got a 1 plus the 7 is 8, plus 1 more gives me 9. Nothing extra to carry over there. And then looking at my last row here, I have 4, and there's nothing else underneath it. So if it helps you sleep better at night, you can put in a 0 to know that we have something there, but it won't really change our addition. 4 plus 0 gives us 4. So we have 4,932 as our final answer. Okay, so if we take 4,796 and add 136, we get 4,932 in total. Subtraction is very similar. We are again going to start on the ones side, and we're going to go from the right to the left. Okay, so in my first little box here, I'm going to look at my ones, and we always take the top number and subtract the bottom number. So this one says we have 5 and we're going to take 7 away. This is a problem because if I only have 5 of something, it's not possible to take 7 away. I'm trying to take away more than what I have. So this is where we do something called borrowing. What I'm going to do when I borrow is I'm going to look at my neighbor here. This neighbor is a 4, and this 4 is in the tens position, so this represents 40. And what I'm going to do is instead of working with it as 40, I'm going to think of it as 30 plus 10 extra. And what I'm going to do with that is rewrite my 4 and bring it down to a 3. And that 40 is going to give its 10 extra to his buddy, the 5. And so my 5 is going to go from being 5 to 15. And what happens is it's like I take one of those tens rods that was with the 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and we split these 10 into single ones, just like these ones down here. So if I split them apart so that they're not all connected, I now have 10 extra pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I've run out of room there, 9, and 10. So instead of having just the 5 that I started with, I've borrowed 10 from my neighbor, and I now have 15 altogether. If I want to take 7 of them away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 can now be taken away, and I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 15 minus 7 now gives me 8 in my ones column. Moving from right to left, so I move to my next row, or my next column. Instead of having 40, I now have 3, because remember we crossed it out and borrowed 10 for our neighbor. I now have 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 leaves me with 2. And then moving over into our hundreds column, 3 minus, I have nothing else there, so 3 gets to stay as it is. 345 minus 17 gives us 328. We'll try one more, and I'm not going to draw out all the extra pieces this time. We'll just do our borrowing as we need to. Again, moving from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, so starting in our ones column, 4 minus 0 gives me 4. If I move to my next column here, this is a bit of a problem because if I have 3, I can't take 7 away. Remember, it's always the top number minus the bottom number. 3 minus 7 doesn't work. So the 3 is going to borrow from his neighbor. His neighbor reduces by 1, and because this is in the hundreds position, it's like taking my 100 and I'm going to split it into 10 tens to add to here. Or you can think of it as this was a 10. I'm going to break it into 10 pieces to make this a 13. And because this was a 1, it reduces down to nothing. I now have in my tens column 13 minus 7. If we have 13 pieces and take 7 of them away, we will have 6 remaining. Moving over now into the hundreds column, I have 0 minus 4. 0 minus 4, no good. If I have nothing, I can't take 4 away. So I'm going to borrow again. So I knock on the door of the 2 next door, and the 2 reduces by 1. And as we move back to the right, that allows us to add 10 to what we started with. Since we had nothing, we add 10 to nothing, we're up to 10. 10 minus 4 gives us 6. And as we go into our thousands column, we have now 1 minus 1, which is 0. Now, because our final answer has that 0 there, we can just simply write it as 664, 664. That would be our final answer. One thing that you might see and hear talked about is something called fact families. So what a fact family is, if I was to take, let's say 25, and I add the number 64, This is going to give me 5 plus 4 in my 1s column gives me 9, and 2 plus 6 in my 10s column gives me 8. Now, I could also write 64 plus 25. And if I reverse my addition, it still ends up giving me 89. So I've got those three numbers are kind of joined together. When I add the two smaller ones, I get the bigger one, and it doesn't matter what order I put the two smaller ones in. To complete our fact family, I could also say that 89 minus 25 is going to end up giving me, in this case, 64, because 9 minus 5 is 4, and 8 minus 2 gives me 6, so I get 64. And wouldn't you know, if I also went 89 minus 25, not 25, if I go 89 minus 64, 9 minus 4 is 5, 8 minus 6 is 2. Would you look at that? I'm using 25, 64, and 89 in all four expressions. That number, those three numbers keep repeating and showing up over and over again. So we have what's called a fact family, and that's where a group of three numbers will come together and we can write out their addition and their subtraction in any order we like, and we're still going to get, we're still going to get that group of three numbers. So it doesn't matter what order we add our numbers in our fact family in, we still get that third value. And if we start with the bigger of the values and subtract one of the smaller ones, we are going to get, again, that other missing value that we already had in our fact family. So when we're looking at a fact family, it's just writing out the three numbers that are all included together. So in my fact family, I have 25, 64, and 89 are the three numbers that are connected together, just in case you see that in your work today.